I'm Bryn Harvey and I'm a dental hygiene major.
I'm Nicole Kirshner and I'm a nursing major.
I'm Adam King and I'm an applied exercise science major.
And I'm Adam Beath and I'm an athletic training major. And today we're going to talk to you about caffeine and cognition. So we've outlined a couple learning objectives for you guys today. The first one being how caffeine works in the body. We'll get to that in a little bit. Short-term and long-term effects that caffeine can have on the body. The amount of caffeine that is safe to digest in one digestion period. Caffeine sources that are the healthiest, so such as coffee versus Red Bull or Red Bull versus soda. And then how caffeine can affect cognitive performance, of course, that being the main topic of today's discussion. So what is caffeine? Caffeine is a white, bitter alkaloid. It's usually derived from coffee or tea, and it's routinely used in medicine as a nervous system stimulant. So that just goes to show that doctors believe that caffeine can be beneficial to the body. All right, so caffeine in the body. So I just said this a second ago, caffeine is a stimulant and it stimulates your entire nervous system so that impulses travel faster throughout the neurons and all that. Your blood pressure, pulse rate, and stomach acid production are all increased after ingesting caffeine, which then leads to an increase in metabolism, so your fat stores are broken down. It can also act as a diuretic, so it's going to make you urinate frequently, and it's going to dehydrate you. So a couple other things that it does are there are fatty acids that are released into the bloodstream after taking caffeine, and the effects can last anywhere from 4 to 6 hours, or as long as 12 hours, depending on how much caffeine you've actually had. So here's a video for you, and we're going to show you that right now.
Here we have Floyd, a mild-mannered man, a man like you and me. It's morning time, and as you can see, Floyd does not seem to have had a full night of rest. He needs a pick-me-up. Well, naturally, what he might want to start the day with is a hot cup of delicious coffee. Coffee is very popular indeed. For many of us in our busy lives, a fresh brewed cup of coffee is just the ticket. That extra perk, that extra step in our shoes. What is it about coffee that gives us that extra zap and extra zing? How is this morning beverage going to help tired old Floyd? Caffeine. Caffeine is a stimulant. Its chemical formula is CH10N402. How does this chemical work? Well, caffeine binds to a part of Floyd's brain called the adenosine receptor. Adenosine naturally slows down brain cell activity so Floyd can sleep. Caffeine connects itself to his adenosine receptor and causes his brain cells to speed up. Without caffeine, blood vessels in Floyd's brain dilate to let blood flow evenly in his brain while he sleeps. With caffeine in his brain, his blood vessels tighten and keeps him up and awake. Now that his brain cells are rapidly moving, his pituitary gland is alerted to an emergency. The pituitary gland fires a chemical called adrenaline. Pupils dilate, breathing tubes open up. The liver releases sugar for extra energy. The heart beats faster, muscles tense. Caffeine allows brain cells to move at a quickened pace. Floyd has gotten that extra zap and extra zing in his mind and body. Caffeine.
All right, so we have different levels of caffeine intake. The first level being moderate, that's 250 milligrams or 3 8-ounce cups of coffee. The effects of that, and there's no apparent health risk to it. You won't start feeling the caffeine until after you get over that 250 milligrams. Then you get into the intake level of excessive, which would be 500 or more milligrams of caffeine, which is equal to roughly 6 8-ounce cups of coffee. So from there, that's going to increase your alertness. Your cognitive performance is going to increase. We see no jitters at this point. We see no sweating, no dilating, anything like that at this point. And then you get to the dangerous level, which is 1,000 milligrams or more. So that would be 12 cups of coffee or more. That can cause jitters, rapid heartbeat, nausea, anxiety attacks, heart palpitations, and many other risk factors that can be very detrimental to your health. And then you get to the lethal section, which no one really ever gets to, because that's 10 grams of caffeine, or roughly 80 cups of coffee. And if you can drink 80 cups of coffee in any sitting, that's pretty impressive, if you ask me. So now you're going to refer to the tables that we've printed off for you. They should be in your hand. There's 3 of them. This first one here is all about coffee. So there at the top, you see the Dunkin' Donuts coffee with a turbo shot. A large, which would be 20 ounces, is roughly 436 milligrams of caffeine. That's a lot of caffeine. So you're almost right at that excessive level. And then you see a little bit farther down, you see just the regular Dunkin' Donuts coffee, which is roughly 178 milligrams. So now we're going to go to the next table, where you can see soft drinks. So I'm sure we have a couple of Coca-Cola drinkers in here, Pepsi drinkers, we have Dr. Pepper on campus, Mountain Dew on campus, and you'll find all of those milligrams of caffeine per 12 ounces of drink that you consume. So if you want to take a minute and look at that, and you can compare to see how much caffeine you're getting each day from drinking into carry. And then in this next table right here, you have your energy drinks, and I'm sure some of you have at one time consumed an energy drink. So there at the top is 5-Hour Energy. For 1.9 fluid ounces, you have 208 milligrams of caffeine. Per volume, that's really high. So that might be one of those drinks that you just pick up in the morning, just like the ad says, just to get going. You can get it on the go. Then you get down to, I'm sure we have some Red Bull drinkers in here, which per 8.4 ounce can, which is the small can, you get 80 milligrams of caffeine, excuse me. So those are the more popular brands right there on that table. And then just for fun, here are some lethal amounts of caffeine. So for a person weighing 170 pounds, if you were to drink Red Bull, which is the one at the top, I know it's kind of hard to see, but it's 9.5 milligrams per fluid ounce of caffeine. So someone who was weighing 170 pounds would die after consuming 145 cans of Red Bull. The worst one that I found on the site that I went to was Monster, which has 10 milligrams per fluid ounce of caffeine. So someone weighing 170 pounds would die after having 72 of these. Now again, it's not that realistic, but if you were to try, you'd have to get to 72 drinks in order to off yourself.
Alright, so since we're talking about how caffeine affects cognitive performance, I figured we might as well define the topic. For our purposes, cognitive performance is referring to the mental processes like memory, learning, perception, alertness, and attention. All of these mental processes can be tested by certain simple mental performance tests. For example, one would be the Stroop effect test. This is an example of the Stroop effect test. The person taking this test would be reading off the list, and they'd be saying the color of the word, not the word itself. So for example, if I was taking this test, I'd be timed, and I would go down through the list saying red, blue, green, purple. And I'm not going to go through it all because I'll probably mess it up, but they would be timed doing that and then judged on their mental performance due to their results. Now we're going to go through the effects that caffeine has on cognitive performance. Through many studies, it has been shown to increase reaction time, reduce tiredness, increase alertness, and prolong attention. It has not actually been shown to aid in recalling anything from your memory or from actually learning new material. On the effects of cognitive performance. In one of the studies I found, the researchers chose 72 college-age kids and tested whether or not glucose and caffeine had any effects on the body alone or combined. Glucose has been known to increase memory and speed up mental functions. So the researchers just wanted to test whether or not the combination of glucose and caffeine had any beneficial effects on the body. In order to do this, they had the 72 participants fast overnight and then drink a beverage containing just water, which was the placebo, 75 milligrams of caffeine, 75 grams of glucose, or the combination of 75 milligrams of caffeine and 75 grams of glucose. After this, they were involved in 6 performance tasks. These performance tasks include an auditory memory test, a motor coordination test, a couple processing speed tests, and a couple
So the
visual
effects
tests.
on cognitive performance, this is focusing especially on academic performance. A study in New Orleans on university students in college showed that the length of the study session was prolonged when caffeine was used, and also anxiety was reduced during study sessions when caffeine was used compared to the other students who
Okay,
did not
these
use
are
caffeine.
the results of a study taken on 18 to 24-year-old college students, and in 2002, about 25% of them reported drinking coffee sometime in the last 2 weeks. They took the same survey again in 2012, and 39% of college students said they had consumed coffee in the past 2 weeks. So coffee consumption is increasing, and they're not sure why, whether it's due to busier schedules, higher workload, overstimulation, but caffeine is becoming more popular in college students. This is a slide about caffeine's effects on general health and well-being. Some positive effects other than the immediate cognitive effects are a decreased risk of dementia and a decreased risk of dementia in women, and that's regular coffee consumption on like an everyday basis. And some negative effects are interruption of sleeping patterns. Some of it's because a lot of people drink coffee to stay up and study, or just to stay up for work or something like that, so they're sleeping less. But also when people do actually fall asleep, they're getting poorer quality sleep because they're not going into the REM stage, so their body isn't getting fully recuperated.
Now we have some detrimental effects of caffeine withdrawal. Regular users of caffeine usually feel these symptoms. The effects can either be acute or chronic. The acute effects can usually be seen overnight from the caffeine deprivation. These effects are high levels of fatigue and drowsiness, decrease in alertness, and they're more prone to anger, and they also get headaches. Now, with the chronic effects, the attention focus effects usually seem to pass and go away, but the headaches stay and the decreased mood seem to also stay.
So in conclusion, caffeine has had some beneficial effects as well, and in reasonable doses, it is beneficial on sustaining attention, increasing reaction time and alertness, and decreasing anxiety for tests. But there is no evidence that caffeine actually improves memory or learning, and in excess, caffeine can have detrimental effects. Withdrawals from caffeine will also surface if using excess caffeine, and it is common.
So now we have a little 5-question quiz for you guys. First one is true or false. Caffeine is a stimulant. The correct answer for that one is true. Next one is another true or false. Caffeine consumed in excess will greatly improve cognitive performance. If you chose false, you'd be correct. The next question is, at what level does caffeine consumption become dangerous? Is it either A, 250 milligrams, B, 500 plus milligrams, C, 1,000 plus milligrams, or D, 10 plus grams? If you chose C, 1,000 plus milligrams, you should be right. Which beverage has the highest volume of caffeine? Is it A, Starbucks coffee, B, Dunkin' Donuts coffee with a turbo shot, C, Red Bull, or D, Monster? For this one is B, Dunkin' Donuts coffee with a turbo shot. Next question. Which one is an effect of caffeine withdrawal? Is it A, higher levels of fatigue and drowsiness, B, persistent headaches, C, more prone to anger, or D, all of the above? That one would be D, all of the above.
Alright, thank you for listening. We hope you learned something and enjoyed our presentation.